Hello and welcome to Skeindeer Knits. My name is Ellie and I am a Norwegian living and knitting in London. And you can find me on Instagram as Skeindeer, and I am Skeindeer Knits as a designer on Ravelry. I also have a Ravelry group called Skeindeer Knits, which is the best place to take part in the knit-alongs and the Skeindeer Knits community and just, take part in the fun. That is also the place that I'm running the year-long Skeindeer Knits Garments KAL. It's basically that any time during 2020 you need to have started and finished at least one of my garment patterns. That includes the skirt pattern as well, and cardigans and sweaters, etc. In order to take part in the knit along, you can use a hashtag on social media like Instagram, I guess, and just join the chat room in the group. Oh, I held in a sneeze throughout that whole thing. I hope you appreciate that. Anyway, welcome to my knitting podcast, my knitting talk show. If you're a new viewer, this is where I sit and talk about knitting for about an hour every week. It seems to be, I'm kind of back to a weekly schedule. I'm not sticking to a particular day, but I'm just finding free moments where maybe my flatmates who are now home all the time are sleeping in, and I have my whole appearance together, which I'll touch upon a bit at the end of the episode, I think, because I'm trying out new things. And to returning viewers, hello and welcome back. I don't think this is gonna take too long, you know. I have been fairly monogamous again. That's not true. I worked on 3 projects. I think 3 projects maybe is my way of it's like as close to monogamous as I can be, arguably. But I have finished one item, and I think this is very exciting because it's one that you haven't seen in a while. So I did this cardigan, this chunky weight, that's chunky, bulky cardigan that I did so quickly. I think in a matter of a day or 2 or something like that, I had the vast majority of it done. That's the beauty of chunky weight and cropped, I guess. I was only lacking button bands, 1 cuff and 1 sleeve. And that was back in 2018. Yeah. The reason I stopped knitting on it was because I was completely convinced that I did not have enough yarn, that I would have needed 1 more skein. So I just was like, oh, I'm not going to continue working on it until I have that skein. And I found one on Ravelry. It wasn't listed as to be sold, but I did get in touch with the person who owned it, and she was willing to sell it, and then she just stopped replying. And I was like, oh god. It just kind of fell to the wayside. I expected to hear from her at some point, I just didn't. And yeah, 2 years passed and I had enough yarn. You know what? There was even leftovers. It may not look like much. Maybe it looks like I was playing yarn chicken. I really wasn't. This is chunky yarn. Like, this is... So I'll be using some to attach buttons, which I haven't done yet. I'm also going to save some that I always do in case something needs darning, you know, fixing, patching up further down the line. I've got 2 like jars, you can't see them, where I just stuff in all the little leftovers every time I finish something. It looks cool, and yeah, it means I'll always have some matching yarn to fix things with. I hope you can hear the birds singing and not the dogs barking, because it's quite a lovely kind of silent day today. I don't know, it's something about Fridays in London where people sleep in often, and it's beautifully quiet to begin with. And then people get into their Friday mode. Anyway, let's get to the actual cardigan. It has literally just dried from being blocked. My way of blocking garments is always the same. I will soak it in water for a minimum of half an hour. Just be sure that it's completely soaked through, no air left. And then I'll take it out and squeeze out as much water as I can by hand. Sometimes I let it hang a bit to have the water kind of pour out in the tub, but that depends if I do want to stretch things or not. If you don't want to stretch it, you really shouldn't do that. But this was lace, obviously, so I wanted to open it up, but I'm letting on what this is now. And then after I've done that, I will roll it into a towel and sit on it with my knees and just put all my weight on it and hope to have it even drier. And then I lay it out on the floor, or in this case outside on the ground, because it was really sunny and our balcony terrace patio gets so hot. It just, as soon as the sun's out, it's like, oh, I can't be here anymore. And here it is. This is Hetty by Andy Satterlin. As you can see, I don't have any buttons on. I'm kind of running a little bit low on my button stash. There's no emergency yet, but I need to go find some good button sources online. Yeah, so I'm very fussy about buttons as well. I don't like plastic buttons. They really have to be wooden or metal, in like those colors as well. And they also have to be UK based, or at least European based for the time being that we're still in the EU. So makes it a bit limited, but yeah, so I may have to have a look around. Unfortunately, like local button sources in London, I'm not too impressed. And I can't go there anyway now, so Hetty, what do we have to say? Did it long sleeve. That's a minor modification when you think about all the modifications put into this thing. Where do we begin? First of all, I didn't think this would fit. I was like, I'll finish it, but it is clearly too small. It's clearly too small. It's just not going to happen. I think I failed to take into account that things that are made in bulky yarn feels tighter, simply because the thickness of the yarn takes away some of the ease. And it's just that I did a smaller size than I am now. And reasons, but of course, when you block lace, it opens up, and this fits really well now. I think the sleeves are too long though. But I like long sleeves, so this one feels longer than this, but they're all the same. I don't know what's up with that, but yeah. So that fits really nicely. Like if I get buttons on, it's just going to be a nice no ease cardigan, which isn't usually my thing, but I think that's going to look really nice with a kind of fit and flare dress, which is my kind of go-to dresses anyway. So yeah, did I mention the yarn? This yarn was given to me by Kristen of Woolenvine when I was visiting her back early in 2018, or maybe it was late 2017. I think it's 2018. Anyway, she doesn't want to tell you this, but she's got this like deep stash room that's like far behind the actual stash, in this little closet where the unspeakable things are. And she had 2 sweater quantities of knit picks. I think it's chunky wool of the Andes, if memory serves right. And this is the olive colorway. There was another colorway in a different shade of green that was a bit more less saturated. And I made a Heidi Kiermaier sweater from that. I think it's called Avalanche, which was also a wonderfully quick knit, and I absolutely love this yarn. I think if you want to knit in non-superwash, you want it to be chunky, you are a bit fussy about how prickly it is, you want it to be next to skin, this is absolutely a beautiful go-to yarn. I actually quite like knit picks, and I have a bit of envy to the Americans who have it, but I do think we can get it in Europe as well. From knit picks. I think the deal with import tax and everything, we don't quote me on that. Yeah, I really like this. I like a lot of knit picks yarn. And as you can see, I was a little bit careful with the neckline whereby I think I took out a round or two, a row I should say. But that wasn't necessary, obviously, but I don't know where I put the leftover, but clearly that wasn't necessary. But I decided to do the neckline first, because then I knew whatever yarn I have left, that's just going to determine how long my button bands are. So again, I was a little bit, you know, holding back, because this button band that's going to have the buttons attached is a little bit shorter than the button band where I'll have the buttonholes, which are microscopic. So I probably could have taken some yarn from one button band over to here, because I was just using leftovers from each sleeve, and so there was just a bit more yarn on one than the other because I used one for the neckline. This is so uninteresting. So yeah, the buttonholes are teeny tiny. That is because I thought, oh, I usually do 2 stitch buttonholes but surely since this is chunky, that's just gonna make for very big buttonholes. And I don't think I was wrong in that, but they also do look really small. Like, oh, this, I can't get my thumb through. Oh, okay, there's hope. Because, you know, buttonholes, they do stretch out a little bit over time, so I like to do that right away and put in a button right away that's just gonna fit that max stretch. I think this is fine. This is a good buttonhole size. I take it back. And you can barely see them, which is actually quite nice. So there, it will obviously look a lot nicer when I can button it up. And yeah, I think, yeah, this is just something that looks nicer buttoned up. It looks nice either way. And it's time to talk about the modifications. I didn't look at the pattern, really. I looked at the lace chart and that was about it. I'm gonna have to spend a bit of time on this, so bear with me. If you don't like the nitty-gritty details, maybe want to skip this, but if you don't like nitty-gritty details, why are you here? You're welcome, but it's gonna be an awfully short episode if you don't like. My eyes are watering today. I sat outside. That was a mistake. So I had just discovered the ziggurat method at the time, and I had pre-ordered Åsa Trikåsa's book on the ziggurat sweaters. And I was so excited. I just cast on Jadeite, which is one of those other old whips that I need to finish up. I just love the construction method. I clicked with it immediately, had so much fun. I've tried it again and again. I've tried to kind of incorporate it into my own designs. Stay tuned for that. I have a Chateaubriand hanging in front of me on a hanger reminding me to finish it. I have also met Åsa since. We met up in January in New York and really got on. She's really cool. So I wanted to see if I could make a Andy Satterlin pattern with the ziggurat method. The reasons are I have made 2, I think, Andy Satterlin garments already. None of which were a huge success for a variety of reasons. They mostly come down to my skills at the time. I'd really never done a satin sleeve silhouette, so I messed up a couple of things, just say that. But I also realized I need to be very wary of shoulder width when it comes to, yeah, choosing a size. Very often when patterns are graded, they will assume that your bust measurement sort of correlates with your shoulder width, and it's not really true, because your bust and general like body circumference is to do with, you know, your yeah, breast size, your muscles, fat, all that body composition things that vary from person to person, which of course shoulders do as well, but shoulders are by and large your skeleton. It doesn't really change whether I put on weight or lose weight, or whether my breasts grow or shrink. So I have to be careful that actually the shoulder width fits. I learned that when I was doing another satin sleeve cardigan from a different designers, and the shoulders kind of hung over, the seams fell here, which is great if it's a drop shoulder, but this wasn't, and I'm like, oh. So I learned a lot, and I learned a lot from making these mistakes. I think make mistakes if you want to become better. That's like a rule that applies across domains, knitting or otherwise. So the reasons I wanted to modify it is mainly because shoulder width. And so what I did, and I am really trying to remember this now, but from, you know, almost 2 years ago, I took the shoulder width from, I think, the smallest size, and I am not the smallest size, but I took it from the smallest size, or the second smallest, and worked from that to start off a ziggurat, but increasing in some magical way that turned into the size that I did want. I am very sorry I don't remember any details. I took no notes, but if you are curious of doing this, I would just recommend starting off knitting a ziggurat pattern, maybe Jadeite or something else, and you will kind of click with it and understand it and see then how you can apply it to other designers' patterns. And for me, Andy Satterlin was just such an obvious choice because I have done designs by her before. I have done Chuck and I have done Agatha, I think that's it. So because I already understood where her patterns are going without having to do it, because I don't know about you, but for me, I can't read a pattern and understand it, I actually have to do it. So that's why it helped to have done both other Andy Satterlund patterns and Åsa Tryggvason ziggurat patterns. So this was a no-brainer. I had so much fun. You can see progress photos in my project page on Ravelry. Maybe that's of any help, but I really would go straight to the ziggurat source for that. And it's got a really nice fit, because if you do Andy Satterlund's patterns, they're kind of more of a classic, I think, closer to the Barbara G. Walker method. So you kind of cast on a little piece for the back shoulder here, and then you cast on and do another one for the other back shoulder here, and then you do a cast on for the width of the back, and then you join these 3 pieces together. There's a lot of ends, and then you pick up a little bit for the front here, and a little bit for the front here, and you kind of increase them together here, and you cast on a bit of the front here. Ends, 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 ends. And then you work flat because you don't have that sleeve that you're working. You just work in fronts and back separately and pick up the sleeve and do short row shoulders. Ziggurat doesn't do any of that. It does everything contiguous. So I don't know, it's just the interest of trying to do Andy Satterlund patterns in a different way. Not that there's anything wrong with the way she does it. I think that might be more easier, because you can work small sections at the time. But for someone like me and Åsa, who would just hate weaving in ends, it's just really cool to do it all in one go. It isn't the same as the contiguous method, but I think if you like the contiguous method, you're gonna get such a kick out of the ziggurat method. It just takes it one step further, but it does mean you really need to have your brain space available for the beginning. You know, just tune in full brain bandwidth to maybe like from here to down here or something, and then it's really easy. Which meant it wasn't very hard for me to pick up this garment 2 years down the line. I didn't look at anything, any pattern, any chart, nothing. It's very easy to look at this lace and see how it's done, so I just continued the other sleeve, and I can figure out, you know, neckline and button band pickup rates myself. I talked about that, I think, the episode before last. So yeah, I'm really enjoying that I could make this one so independently. Again, you know, Andy Satterlund's and Åsa Tryggvason's patterns are very handholdy and very step by step, and it was kind of cool that I could pick this up and not need that anymore, because I had got those things out of the way. And yeah, so here look, it's from the back. I'm sure none of what I said now made any sense, but you have to bear with me, it's been 2 years, something. I'm just saying, would do this again, absolutely. I want to just ziggurat every cardigan pattern I come across if it's a satin sleeve. To clarify, I say satin sleeve a lot, but I should probably be wary of assuming everyone knows different garment shapes, because I didn't know when I started this podcast. Satin sleeve sounds like you're supposed to set in the sleeve, because that's what you used to do, you know, in the old kind of classic vintage Rowan patterns. You would make these flat pieces, front, back, sleeve, sleeve. And so of course you had to set in the sleeve, and you get this silhouette with a sleeve that comes out from about here. You get a very nice seam here, you get very nice shoulder that kind of stops here. But there are so many ways of doing it. There is the ziggurat method, there is the kind of old Barbara Jean Walker method that I think Andy uses mostly. There is the contiguous method, there is Elizabeth Dorothy kind of has her take on the more Barbara Jean Walker method. That's the one where you short draw the sleeve caps, basically. It's a really common one on Ravelry nowadays. So there's a lot of ways that you can do a satin sleeve without actually ever setting in the sleeves. So you can do them by picking up and doing short rows, or by doing some contiguous ziggurat something something. So it's a silhouette that refers to a satin sleeve, not the method. This is kind of the classic sewing silhouette as well. You find it a lot in sewing patterns and store-bought garments and things like that. So yeah, that's a lot of waffle just to talk about, you know, something where I basically did a sleeve and that's it. They are very long, these sleeves. They feel kind of heavy. I don't know if I just block them a bit funny or something. I think just with wearing them I'll find out. but I do really like this. It's gonna fit really well with a lot of my dresses. A nice layer piece, and really layering knitwear is what I'm all about. I am hot and cold all over. I'm sure I'm not the only one. So for me, just dressing up in wool that I can't take off is a bad idea. So cardigans and me, we're friends. And I just want a little bit of appreciation, guys, for having purled the entire back here. This is not steeked. I purled without complaining. I don't, if anyone goes back to find the old video and found that I did complain, shame on you. Yeah, no, it was chunky, it was quick. I actually didn't mind so much. So, you know, sometimes I do the purl. So Hetty cardigan by Andy Satterlin, and it's just so incredibly modified and fun, but it looks like Hetty. It looks like the design. So I'm just gonna move on. I can't talk today. I don't know what's going on. Now I was a bit worried that I wouldn't have many whips to talk about. I was like, what have I even been working on? I don't remember. But I remember, actually, I picked up a old whip. I do that every so often because I have this pile of whips in front of me, and I also have these cubbies with whips, but there I'm a bit, I'll get to that. But the box of whips in front of me just needs to be empty, quite frankly. And there is one sweater in there, I'm holding it now, that I was gonna do quickly. Right, it's just gonna be over in a bit. It's cheeky Coslan, doesn't matter, will be done ASAP. Famous last words. I really wanted to experiment with my knitting machine. I haven't actually worked on it in a while now. I feel bad, but when everyone's home, I just feel like, you know, it makes just the most screeching sound. It's better now it's oiled, but it's not a quiet thing. And so yeah, but back last year I wanted to make a big and baggy Rauma sweater. I really fell in love with the Verde genser, Verde sweater, if you will. And I was like, I just need that. Someone's got to send me the pamphlet with a pattern. I need to get the yarn. And I did the body in 2 pieces on the machine, a back and a front. I did the sleeves flat on the machine and sent it off to Amy of the Stranded podcast to seam it in exchange for me machine knitting her pieces for a boxy, I think that was. So she did, you know, mattress stitch it together, and I think she did that actually after I had done the yoke. So I hand knitted the round yoke, and that's when she mattress stitched it together. And then now I have finally finished the neckline, which I should have done a while ago, but anyway, I have also blocked it, which is crazy because it's not done. I'm lacking all the rib for the cuffs and the hem, but I just wanted to see if my short row modification worked, and could be better, but it's looking like this right now. Norwegian patterns aren't really known for short row shaping for yokes, unfortunately. They tend to drop in the neck and they kind of rise up in the front, and you just kind of, it just doesn't feel great. So I was like, oh, I'm ahead of you guys. I'm just going to put in some short rows. It's just going to be great. And I'm like, I don't know if I needed to. Like, it does look nice. I'm very pleased with it, but I'm also kind of wary that I put in a little bit too much fabric. Like, I think it's fine. Once it blocked, it actually turned out pretty nice. So I shouldn't be complaining. I am really happy with this. This is gorgeous. It looks really, really nice. Now, I said I wanted this to be a big and baggy sweater. It is not. I haven't actually sat down and measured the gauge of this, but something tells me just by looking at it that I didn't tune my knitting machine right and got tighter gauged than I was going for. Which is ridiculous, because swatching on a knitting machine is like the least I can do. It doesn't take any time. I don't even have to purl. Yeah, so the sleeves, I was a bit worried about the length, but after actually blocking it, I don't think they were as short as I first feared. Blocking does a lot to machine knitted things. there's just something about when it's machine knit that everything is sort of spaced out and weird, and just, yeah, it needs to relax a bit. So locking machine knitted things is absolutely essential. So I do think these cuffs will be longer than I would have normally done. These sleeves aren't as long as I would have liked, and that means that the decreases, right, they're going to start further up than maybe would have started down here, or maybe, you know, so that they will feel tighter, the gauge will be tighter. And I've tried it on, and this body isn't actually, it doesn't have that much positive ease. It does a little bit, like maybe this much, but that doesn't really make it that oversized. It just means it's sort of a comfortable fit, but I wouldn't call that oversized. So I am actually toying with the idea. I don't know if I'm going to do this, but I'm actually thinking that I could just simply take this, just fold it in and just seam it like this, and it will be a double folded hem cropped sweater. It would save me a lot of ribbing, which I'm not into. It will probably also flare out a bit because I usually like to make the inside of a folded hem at a tighter gauge, and this is not going to do that, so I don't know if it's going to work. I'm thinking about it. I mean, yeah, but because the length of this suggests cozy sweater, the size of it is a bit, would have been bigger if I had achieved gauge. So, and yeah, if you're wondering what all this white stuff is, it's basically the kind of scrap yarn that I cast on with. I don't like to cast on the machine with the yarn I'm going to make the whole thing with. I just like to do a provisional cast on, so there's a yarn running through all the stitches here. The machine can do that, which is pretty cool. And then I just do a bunch of rows with the scrap yarn, and I just unpick all of that when I want to pick up the body. This just means it's all completely consistent gauge wise, and I get an even fabric. I do the same when I hand knit too, so there's nothing too revolutionary there. So yeah, it's just gonna have to serve a different purpose, and that is why I'm thinking of cropping it, because it will just be worn as a more, not fitted, but just not baggy, and it would be worn in different contexts. I even kind of want to make it into a cardigan, but I think the ship has sailed on that one now that I finally finished the neckline, which is a folded neckline. I don't know if I mentioned that, but yeah. God, I like to bind it off with the stitches I'm knitting it together with. I don't know if anyone has a video for that. It's just maybe something I came up with, but yeah. So that's very kind of classic looking. I get strong, you know, about 50s, 60s and 70s vibes from this. The whole, yeah, I really, really like it. The colours aren't really my usual, they kind of are. But I don't usually do this shade of yellow. If I was going to do yellow, it would be a lot stronger, like more ochre, mustard. This one's a bit more just kind of buttercup. But together with the greys, I just knew I had to go with it. All these colours are the ones recommended in the pattern. I'm like, don't fix what's not broken. Just go with it. Just go with it. And I'm really liking it. I just have to think about the length and the shaping, and you know, usually I would have just frogged the body and done a rib and have it be shorter, and that would be the end of it. But when it's seamed, you can't do that, so I feel a little bit restricted when trying something new, but that's just part of it. So I think I'm gonna just make the cuffs, try it on, just feel it out a bit, see if just what the knitting muse tells me. So yeah, that's by that. It's a pattern by Rauma. No idea if you can get it in English. If you're like really, you know, really looking, I would always suggest looking into my Norwegian yarn and knitting help desk. I'm in my Ravelry group. It's kind of meant for that. We have made a list. It's probably a little bit out of date, but we have a list of shops that sell yarns and patterns, and people continuously come with suggestions for things to add that I should add, but maybe haven't gotten around to it. It's there, so that's a good source if you're looking. And yeah, I have another 2 whips to talk about. I'm trying, I mean to be good finishing my webs. I try. I just really like to cast on things. I really just like a cheeky cast on, you know. So I have done 2. One I have purchased yarn for that I mentioned like 2 episodes ago, and the other one is in my defense in my make 9. So I'm allowed, there's no knitting police, I do what I want. It's in this thimble and thread knitting project bag in this gorgeous yellow. It's a really huge bag, which is good because it's going to be quite the sweater. It is in, I would say worsted weight yarn. I'm using the Rauma Natura Gilead. Hang on, looks like this. I'm hesitating talking about yarn weights with this yarn because, one, I don't agree with how they themselves classify their yarn, and they seem to change all the time. Like, I remember in their Ravelry yarn entries they have changed it over and over again, and I'm like, I don't agree where it's at right now. I think Serrano is chunky, if not very chunky, but it's listed as Aran. It's definitely chunky, like, yeah. I think Gilead is worsted, but I think they insist it's DK. I'm like, okay, it can be knit up to DK, which is why this yarn is so lovely. You can knit it anywhere, like DK, worsted, maybe even Aran. Ulyss, I would say somewhere between DK and Sport. Knits up either way, and you can knit it up as fingering too. And that's what's so lovely about this yarn, is that it transcends yarn weights. I think you can use it for almost anything, and I just love how it feels. This really soft merino non-superwash. It's very bouncy. There's like, you know, this yarn is like elastic. It's really comfortable to knit with and to purl with. You know, when I say that, I'm not messing about. Me and purling. So you probably already know where I'm going to go with this. I have cast on the stag head pullover, which of course, because I'm Skeindeer, I have to. It's the law. I knew that as soon as I saw it. Like, this one's got to be mine. I think just at the time I wasn't super confident that I would have the mojo to just finish a cable sweater. But of course, for Christmas, I finished a cable sweater for one of my best friends. So, and he's like really tall. So of course I can do this for me. And of course I'm going to use the fairly new burgundy colorway by the Rauma Natura, which I ordered as soon as it was available. I am probably to blame with that being sold out at the time. And this is what's happening. I started with the sleeve, and I am indeed doing it flat. We are hoping this is gonna increase in exposure a bit so you can see the beautiful cabled braid happening here. Oh yeah, oh yeah. So why did I start with the sleeve? Didn't I start with a body a while ago? Yeah, I started with a body like 3-4 times, and every time I made some stupid mistake that meant I had to start over again, and I kind of just lost a bit of and I also started questioning why it makes you start off with more stitches for the rib and then decreasing before the body. It is usually the other way around, that you increase after the rib. That's like kind of what classic patterns do, but of course they have a very sort of silhouette. So in order to kind of find out why, I decided I'll start with the sleeve, because the sleeves do the same, and I don't really care if that's something I don't agree with. It's the sleeve. And as you can see, it just makes it very straight. It doesn't pull in much for the cuff. You get a rib, but it just becomes, yeah, very, very straight. So I think maybe that would be nice for, it depends what silhouette I'm going for. If I'm gonna go with the pattern as is, I will do that. I will do more stitches for the rib and let it be like this just hanging straight sweater instead of one that kind of clings where the rib pulls in. But I've been thinking am I gonna wear it if I just follow the pattern, or should I make it shorter with a slightly tighter rib in order to make it my style, you know? Because I don't wear trousers. I wear skirts, that's it. So in order for it to fit skirts, it really probably should be shorter. Plus that will be quicker. So I could go halfway and just make it shorter but still have that rib with more stitches and let it be loose. I just don't know if that's flattering. I'll have a think about it. I am probably overthinking it now, but I'm really enjoying the sleeve and it's worked up so fast. I'm honestly like, I'm up to here now. There's like this much left before I do this kind of sleeve cap shoulder thing. So yeah, it's flying. It's and I'm purling it, and I just want you guys to be proud of me for not modifying to be in the round, because I was going to, and I probably will for the body. But the reason I actually did this for the sleeve is because it's a sleeve. It's just kind of inconsequential if I have to purl a little bit, because there aren't that many stitches, and because there aren't that many stitches, working in the round, you know, can be a bit fiddly. I can probably fit into a 40 centimeter needle now, but for a while you're just kind of really kind of forcing it. So yeah, no, it's fine doing it this way. And another kind of big motivation that I have to do it this way is that I really just need to get my act together and learn to set in a sleeve. You know, I do love those methods that I talked about earlier, Barbara J. Walker, Andy Satterlin, Elizabeth Dorothy. Fitting in the sleeves isn't my jam. I like to do what they do and pick up stitches to do short rows, or do the ziggurat method or contiguous method, where I just form the sleeve cap as I do the whole thing. Anything to avoid sewing in and fitting in the sleeve. But now that I'm a little bit of a vintage pattern dabbler, I just need to know what I'm doing. And I think it's honestly a safer bet to learn from more modern, slightly more hand-holdy pattern than to go straight for the old noose clipping vintage patterns that just go, sew in the sleeve, off you go. So I just need to learn it. It's just one of the last knitting skills that I've just avoided like the plague. I am just very insecure when it comes to sewing things together. There are just too many free variables. There's just too many degrees of freedom. There's too many things that could go wrong. I could, you know, so I don't know what that was, but so that's where that sleeve is at. I am both making it for me for fun, for expanding my knitting knowledge and learning some essential skills that I have put off for too long, which is hilarious because I so often talk about that on the podcast, that you shouldn't put off things you want to make. You shouldn't say, oh, I'm not ready yet. Like, people will come to me and say, I'm not ready for colour work yet. I'm like, what are you waiting for? What thing do you think you need to be doing to be good at colour work other than knitting colour work? You know, but clearly I am a just massive hypocrite. So in order to learn to set in sleeves, I need to just set in some sleeves and fail and learn from failing and do it again. And the good thing about setting in sleeves is that you can just unpick it and do it again. I'm not going to break my knitting. So that's my motivational speech for the day. Thank you for coming to that. And yeah, I have one more whip to talk about, and that's it. I was really hoping my acquisition would arrive as I'm talking to you guys, because I got a confirmation yesterday that it was shipped. And you know, any other normal time I would expect it to arrive the next day, but you know, the way things are now with the post and pandemic and all that jazz, it's not likely to happen, which is fine. It's just yarn. Do love yarn though. So last whip I cast on last night. I have talked about the yarn previously. It's Kalinka linen, which I've seen me knit from on this podcast before. I knitted in maroon, which is different than burgundy. Last year I made a summer top by Hetty, and I really liked it. I never thought I liked linen, but I really liked working with Kalinka linen, and I'm opening my horizons to other linen yarns, but I still wanted to return to Kalinka for this particular top. This is the Argyle top, and I've linked to it below, and it's just, yeah, this is what I'm doing so far. Watch me as I am knitting another thing, flat, purling, like a grown-up. Just, you can't like do this any other way. It is lots of flat pieces that sort of modularly work together. That was the worst sentence ever. And I actually don't know how this thing comes together yet. I'm trying to get my head around it, but I'm also kind of just following it blindly. So this is, as far as I understand, the back, bottom up. And I think the way you work it is just up, 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 and then split for the two kind of backs, the ones that become the back straps, and you continue in the front, and you then increase again and knit join the front and knit that down. I think that's what I'm going to do, but I haven't really read ahead in the pattern, but I had a sneak peek. And then you do the front section of this sideways, and they have like these two ties that you tie together, and it will just look like a really cool summer top. I don't know how it's gonna happen, and that just, it's one of those things that gave me a very strong knitting mojo, and I'm like, oh, I just want to get ahead to see how that's done and do the thing, and yeah. So I'm really excited about that. I have obviously done quite a bit already. I just did this little section this morning, and the rest was last night. It's fairly quick. It's 22 stitch gauge. For me that's like a 4mm, but the pattern recommended to a 3.25, so you know, that doesn't tell you anything. People knit differently. So yeah, I am enjoying it. And what's also really cool about this summer top is that I have a really strong mental image of how I'm gonna style it, how I'm gonna wear it. Because I talked about that a couple of 2 weeks ago, how I ordered myself a bunch of clothing items for my wardrobe, for my kind of summer wardrobe. You know, some things I just reuse every year, as you should do. So I got these two shorts, and they fit me so well, and that's like, yeah, I got these other summer shorts and they never make me feel very good. I don't think they're flattering. I literally just bought them because they were dark in colour and my size-ish. And that's like the only criteria I get to use when I go into, you know, your usual high street shop and get stuff for my bottom. It's like, oh, well, at least it isn't too small, so I guess I have to buy it. That's the only shorts I can wear, I guess. And I can't think about if it's my style or if it makes me feel good or if it's flattering. I'm just like, I just need something that I can wear in the summer heat. That, yeah, and it's like, it's not very inspiring. It's not very like, oh yay, look at me being gorgeous in the summer. Until I found these shorts from Collective. Not sponsored, just a fan. Oh, they're very size inclusive, they're very, you know, vintage recreation, assuming I like that, I guess. And I think those shorts are gonna go so well with this top and my other summer tops that I made last year, and I'm gonna look good in the summer. I feel like just one big trash bag in the summer, not to like be too self-deprecating. I just don't feel good in the summer heat. I feel gross. I feel like I just wear things just to not be grosser and sweatier. And I don't feel like any of the stuff is me. Which is one, you know, why I got those shorts, and two, why I am now knitting so many summer tops. Because if it's made by me, I call the shots, and two, it is just me wearing knitwear, and that's me, the me that I know, basically. I feel like myself. It just feels right. Something with that clicks. I am still wearing knitwear. I can still be like, I made this. Long-term viewers will know I'm not a fan of summer, so for me to just have something to look forward to in that department is just really nice. So that's what's happening here. That's all my knitting for today. that's it. Didn't get the acquisitions in time. I can talk about them if you want. Yeah, it's not a very shocking acquisition. It's Rauma Finull, which I always get. I don't know what percentage of my stash is Finull, but it's my go-to yarn, and it's been a lot more available since the colorwork craze started about 2 years ago. So what I have ordered it for is actually 2 design ideas. I want to make 2 garments that are gonna be heavy in the colorwork department, and they're kind of gonna be the same, but they're gonna be different. Wow, sentence of the year. So yeah, same chart, same vibe, but different colors and different type of garment. That's what you get to know, because it's gonna take me a while to make, but I'm very have a very clear image of what they're gonna look like, and I even want to give them, this is gonna be, I'm gonna be such a knitting cliche now, but I also have working titles in mind, and they are a little bit arguably potentially inspired by Harry Potter. Just a little. I was never gonna do that. I was never gonna go. There were so many people naming their yarns and patterns and stitch markers and what have you after Harry Potter. I'm like, I'm not that fast. I like Harry Potter, but I'm not like, you know, it's not the air I breathe. It's just, it's nice. I really like it. I put on the films, I listen to the audiobooks. I just, you know, it's nice. I get excited if I see merch. I am a very laid back fan. But these design ideas that I have in my mind, I just picture these 2 characters. I'm like, they're gonna be named after, they're just gonna, they just look like something they would wear. So the inspiration is there. It's just, yeah. I caved in, okay? I caved in. So that's my acquisition that you can't see, but that would give away the colours. So let's just keep that under wraps for now. And that leaves me into the knitting chat, the non-knitting chatter, where I am going to try to do at least 1 complete sentence without botching it, but it's clearly not happening today. I seem to be finishing off these episodes with talking about where I'm at in terms of lockdown, in terms of life, and you know, there isn't much to say because obviously we're all a little bit on hold, me because of the PhD thesis and also because I can't really go anywhere anyway. So I'm just kind of working on the me show starring me. And with that, you know, I talked about it last time, for me what I needed, I'm not saying this is true for everyone, but what I have needed is to just get myself ready every day, to just do basic hygiene and getting dressed tasks, but also putting on some makeup, even if nobody's gonna see me, even though I'm not gonna go anywhere. It does make me feel better. Can't explain it, but there you have it, and it's helped. It's kind of weird that this is like such a revelation to me, because I used to do that a lot when I was an undergrad. I still spent a lot of time on my own just studying because I'm a nerd, and I always did my makeup every day and I took it off every evening, and not like I've been doing lately where I'm like, oh, I'll put on makeup on Monday and wear the same on Tuesday and just be really gross. So now I'm like doing just, yeah, I'm just kind of getting my routine back, and it just feels really good. So now you know what a mess I have been up until that point. And the hair, I talked about that last time, didn't I? I guess there's like a bit of a running cliche that we always want the hair that we don't have. I've always had really straight hair, and I know there's a lot of people who would love to have that. I know I'm in many ways really lucky to have such straight hair. You know, I don't have to do anything with it. I barely have to brush it. It's just the easiest hair to keep, unless you want to actually do anything with it. I've never been able to curl it. It doesn't hold a curl. You could try anything, except I had never tried to put in rollers overnight with some styling foam. I just don't know anything about hair and stuff. I don't know. It's really, really not my scene. I never venture into like beauty YouTube where they do like all the makeup hauls and hairstyling tutorials. I just don't. It's just not my scene. It's totally cool if that is your scene. It's a complete valid interest to have. It's not vanity, it's like an actual passion for people. It's just not mine. But I do like, I mean, this kind of ties in a little bit with both the, you know, my habit of wearing skirts because they're comfortable. I know that I sort of fit and flare look is more flattering on me, but I really love knitwear that sort of stems from the sort of mid 20th century. All of this has sort of made me very, you know, just, if I just had curly hair, I would have the look. I would just look like I would be very kind of mid-century vintage. And my hair and also my running shoes kind of ruin it for me a bit, and so I have been enjoying a lot of kind of vintage YouTubers, and I was just gonna watch their hair tutorials. Not that I care or anything, I was just gonna watch. And I watched quite a few of them, and it actually started to feel doable. I'm gonna try to remember to link to them below. I have watched hair tutorials from 3 YouTubers in particular. It's by Karolina Zabrowska. Hers are very extensive, but I will also say that she also kind of intimidated me a little bit about them because I think we just have very different hair types. Hers is very thick and longer and can be really hard to brush through, and brushing is the magic. Brushing is the thing that you need to do. So she, you know, spends a lot of time on it, has to spend hours. I'm like, there's no way I'm spending hours on my hair. I'm not even spending half an hour, it's just not happening. Like if my makeup routine takes more than 5 minutes, I'm like, nope, we're not doing makeup then. So but I learned a lot from her tutorials, and then I watched Jessica Kalgren-Fozard's tutorials, and again, like, you know, she's got very long hair, and I'm like, well, at least she's got the same hair type as I do. It's very straight, very Scandinavian, and she can get the curls to stay. That was something I took away from that, even though obviously mine's not going to look the same because hers is very long. So, and also because of like her disabilities, it kind of made me feel like, oh, this isn't something you have to be exceptional in the motor skills department, because I'm really clumsy for like legit medical reasons. And so that again, you know, gave me a bit of courage, and same with Karolina, a lot of information. And then it was Rachel Max's videos where she just made me think even like there are no rules. That really just put your hair in pillow rollers in the evening with some styling foam. You wake up, you brush it out, and that's it. And if it looks a bit chaotic, that's just part of the look. And yeah, just kind of, aside from again getting a lot of information from her tutorials, I felt I was also given permission to try and fail and learn and just do it. And I am just really loving this. I love to curl my hair. That was a long speech. I really hope there are some of you guys out there who just like give a damn, because like, it's just really given me life. Like, this is the look I have wanted for a decade. I've tried to curl my hair for as long as I can remember, and it just hasn't worked, and now it works. I'm like, this, guys, is day 2. I didn't curl this last night. No, I curled it the night before last night. And I woke up, I just pinned up some of the front curls, and I put the rest in like this like silk scarf. And I just took the things out and I brushed it out, and I'm like, this lasts for days. This hair that could never hold a curl, for someone who just wants to look this way with that much effort, it's like, ah. And the hilarious thing is, or the irony I should say, is that now everyone's like, oh my god, you look like a 1920s movie star, you look like 1930s, and it's like really, really nice. But before, everyone would be like, oh, you look so 1950s, and I'm like, again, that's really cool, thanks, but I'm like, But I like the 1940s. When will I ever 1940s as well? But I guess you can average it across, right? If ever people say 1950s before and they say 30s now, I'm like 50s, 40s, sorry. So yeah, I just thought I'd just mention that in case there are other people out there who have had the same hair conundrums as I've had in the past. I'm not gonna sound like I'm the expert. There's one thing that's a pet peeve of mine is people who are like, I just learned a skill and now I'm gonna make a tutorial, because like I don't think I'm the right person to do that. But I will direct you to where I did find tutorials that helped me. And I think the more you watch, the more you learn, and then you have to find out what your hair does, and it's just, I'm still working on that, but it's so soft and cloudy. So I'm sure my neighbours and my flatmates think I am crazy. Why is she like dolling herself up like a, you know, Hollywood mid-century star? I got no answers. I'm just like, I'm not even doing like photos for my knitwear. I'm just like hanging out here, just so maybe I'm just like losing my mind, you know, maybe that's what's happening. The other day I was, if you want an update on the PhD situation, I just wrote my supervisor on Skype and I was like, so are you ready for a meeting at 2? And he's like, I thought that was on Thursday. And I'm like, it's not Thursday? And I legit just had to check and I was like, how is it Wednesday? Yesterday was Wednesday. How? Yeah. I generally don't know what day it is anymore. So that was embarrassing. So I hope you're all doing well. I barely got my act together. I'm really proud that I'm just like washing myself every day. So that's where we're at. I'm gonna go work on my thesis like a good PhD student now, and I will see you guys next time. Thank you so much for watching. Bye.